This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you're looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. All right, welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are your number one source for WKU sports news and information. We are also the only year-round WKU podcast and the only WKU podcast that covers every sport and every athlete at Western Kentucky University. We are also a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community, and make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms to stay up to date with all the latest news and information as it happens. I always recommend our Twitter or X account that's at @topper_talk. That's going to be our most frequently updated page or platform with news and information as it happens, all the sports games, results, events, etc. And then I always recommend heading over to our YouTube channel at Topper Talk Podcast. Make sure you subscribe over there, hit the bell, get notified every single time we drop an episode so you can be caught up with all the latest happenings in the WKU sports world. Got Tyler here with me, man. We've got a spring game recap to jump into, man. You ready to get into it?
I am. This ain't only the spring game recap. There's also another special episode that we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. But yes, let's jump into it.
Absolutely. But before we do that, we have to get caught up with the Red Towel wrap up, which catches us up with all the news and information we've missed since we last recorded. So, Tyler, hit us with that Red Towel wrap up.
All right, so it's looking like La Tech and Conference USA are close to reaching an exit agreement so that Tech can join the Sun Belt Conference in 2026.
Yeah, I guess we can all say finally. I think we kind of all knew that it was going this way. It's not like Conference USA didn't want Louisiana Tech to leave. We obviously will be just fine without them. It's not like they're great across the board in any particular sport, but they were trying to leave with not the proper amount of notice and not paying the proper amount of exit fees, and unfortunately, that's drawn out into um, some court cases and appeals and hearings, and just trying to negotiate what that buyout actually looks like. And as of today, it's being reported that they're very close to reaching an agreement. So that means the football schedule that we released just a few weeks ago and talked about on here. Probably going to change a little bit. Obviously, Louisiana Tech is currently on our schedule. They will come off the schedule, and then we'll add either Delaware or Florida International to that football schedule to replace them. So hopefully, Conference USA has that loaded up in their back pocket, ready to release whenever that news is official. But who knows? Hopefully, officially soon. This is over and done with, and let Louisiana Tech ride off to the Sun Belt.
OMTSU is probably hoping they have to pay that full exit amount, so just so they can get that little bit in their pocket. But moving on, Charles Bassey has been signed to the Golden State Warriors' final roster spot, and he will be eligible for the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, Charles has bounced around a lot this season. He's been on 4 different teams on 10-day contracts, and now as we get down to the end of the regular season that just ended, Golden State had to make a decision on who they wanted to be on their final 15-man roster, and they had several guys to choose from. And Charles has made a case over the last 2 weeks. He has been a double machine. He's shown he's going to give you energy and effort. Both on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. So he's. It seems like he's found a spot. Maybe he's found a home where they're going to use him. They're going to give him some playing time, and he's going to be effective. We just need him to stay healthy. It would be great if he'd show out in the playoffs and help Golden State advance into the Western Conference playoffs. So let's go. We'll always support Big Charles and that pro top.
WKU baseball won their weekend series against New Mexico State to a score or to a record of 2-1.
Yeah, it was nice to see the baseball team get a series win. They had just a few weekends of just not good baseball. They just not been playing up to the standard that we're used to under Coach Rarden. They've been winning a lot of their midweek games, but then it gets to the weekend and it just seems like the wheels fall off on those Friday, Saturday, Sunday turnarounds. But nice to get a series win. A sweep obviously would have been better, but their current record is currently 19-17 overall, and they're 6-9 in Conference USA play. They're currently tied for seventh place in the conference standings, and that's notable because only the top 9 teams go to the Conference USA tournament at the end of the season. So, right now they've got their head above water, but they need to keep winning games, winning series, and definitely avoiding sweeps as we get down to the tail end of the Conference USA play this year.
Moving on to the softball team, I think this is though well, they lost their series against Liberty 1-2, but I think this is the second series that they have lost this season. Softball team's really been on fire, but yeah, they lost 1-2 this weekend.
Yeah, luckily they avoided the sweep. They were able to win game 3 on Sunday. So, nice to avoid a sweep. Obviously, we would have rather won the series. But like you said, the softball team is having a phenomenal season. They're 29-10 overall. They're 12-6 in Conference USA play, and they're currently third in the standings. So, offensively, they've already tied the season um, home run record, and there's still plenty of games left to play. And pitching wise, we've had 2 pitchers of the week early in the season. We've thrown 2 no hitters in the month of March. So, both ways, pitching and hitting, the girls are getting it done on the softball field. So definitely, we hope they keep that up and finish this season strong.
And former Hilltopper and Pro Top Austin Reed has led the Dallas Renegades to a 3-0 start and currently leads the UFL in passing. And I will say, if you get a chance to watch one of his games on Sundays, um, it is phenomenal. It is just as it was whenever he's a Western. It's very entertaining.
Yes, definitely great to see Austin getting a shot. He'd been in the NFL for a couple years, been a backup and practice squad player with the Chicago Bears. Decided to dip his toe into the UFL, landed with the Dallas Renegades, and not long ago, just a few weeks ago, when he was named the starter for Game 1 over longtime quarterback Luis Perez, it was kind of sent little shockwaves through that UFL community because Luis Perez is one of the most longest tenured and one of the better quarterbacks in the UFL. And, a lot of people were unsure about that decision when it was announced, but I'm glad Austin Reed reminded everybody who he is. Former uh, Division II champion at West Florida, former NCAA passing yards leader here at Western Kentucky, and then made it to the NFL. That's he's the upper echelon of talent as a quarterback, and even though he didn't get a true opportunity in the NFL, he didn't start, didn't go out and make a name for himself there. You got to be in that top 1% of the 1% to even make it to the NFL, and he's showing that the why nowadays with the UFL and leading Dallas to that 3-0 start, leading the lead in passing. And it's not even by a close margin. He's, 650 something yards. And I think that number 2 is at like 417. So, just blowing it out of the water. And we expect nothing less from Austin Reed. So can't wait to watch his season unfold.
It should be very entertaining TV. But Moth, that's it for this week's episode of the Red Tail Wrap Up. I'm gonna hand it off back to you.
Yeah, good stuff as always. Nice, short, and sweet Red Towel wrap up, but all good news to talk about. And now we're going to jump into a spring game recap that happened this past weekend. But before we do, you alluded to it earlier. This is a special episode for Topper Talk, as this episode will be releasing on Tuesday, April 14th. I'll probably have it set for a 7 or 8 a.m. release on audio and video platforms. But this is officially the 3-year anniversary of the Topper Talk podcast. Our first episode, season 1, episode 1, was April 14th of 2023. We came on and introduced ourselves, who we were, talked about our fanhood and what our plans and hopes for the future with the podcast were. And honestly, it's for me. I'll let you talk for you in just a moment, but for me, it's been everything that we hoped and more. Just the access that we've gotten, getting media credentials, getting to attend press conferences, interviewing players and coaches, and just helping spread the word and recognize our hilltopper athletes, our teams, our coaches, just every program that we have here at Western Kentucky has been special. This is our 162nd episode, which for any podcast is just rarefied air. Most of them don't make it past 20 episodes. So we're in that top 1 or 2% of podcasts that have just longevity wise. 3 years is great, but consistently putting out episodes has been something we hang our hat on. We're basically an all year round outfit. During the summer, it gets a little harder when there's no sports. We may take a month off here or there if health or family or vacation and traveling, etc. If those things come up, we're going to take a break because we're not in anybody's schedule but our own. But, it has been a joy doing this for 3 years. Um, Before we go on, and before I let you chime in on your thoughts of the 3 year anniversary, I do want to recognize and shout out the sponsors that we have and help that make this possible. And the first one I have to talk about right under Tyler. You see that logo? I got Roof Girl under me, but Tyler's got Fireman Moving Company under him, and they basically have been with us since nearly day one. I think they joined on in August after we launched in April as our official episode sponsor. And I used to say it in my ad read for them early on. Um, I was a customer of Fireman long before they ever became a podcast sponsor for us. That they are someone that I will use, and I truly mean it when I recommend. Like, hey, if you're moving, give them a call. I'm in my 40s now. I'm not bribing my friends with beer and pizza to help me move. If I need to move, I've given those guys a call. They helped me move from our old house to the current house that we're in about 9 years ago. Best money I've ever spent, best decision we've ever made as far as moving goes. And if we ever have to move again, I hope we don't. I'm gonna knock on this desk here, but hopefully we're not moving anytime soon. But if we do, it will be with the services of the Fireman Moving Company. We really appreciate Neil just being loyal and supporting us and helping making this possible because this isn't free. It costs money for the recording and uploading and premium Twitter and equipment we have to use. So, they help make that possible and funding what we do. And then I also have to recognize Roof Girl. She came on more recently as a sponsor. Um, Again, a locally owned company, another pro WKU company, WKU alumni, and just decided she wanted to be on and be a segment sponsor. And, obviously we love having that continued support, and we always kind of have purposely aligned ourselves with companies and sponsors that are pro WKU. I don't want just any sponsor for the podcast. I want somebody that truly supports what we do and they're WKU fans or WKU alumni. They're ingrained in the community. They're involved at Western Kentucky in sports, etc. So really appreciate them. And then Trent Betting, that was with us previously, no longer a sponsor, but we had one of the greatest commercials of all time when we had Trent Betting around. You can't deny that. So Tyler, jump in, give me your thoughts. The 3 year anniversary, 162 episodes, and our great sponsors. What do you got to say about all that?
I mean, it's just crazy. Things have changed a lot from 3 years ago. Back whenever I was in the guest bedroom, right down the hall, holding my iPhone up there with, the little earpods in, fucking or freaking talking about it. But I mean, it's great that we've been able to do this. Yeah, I've never would have thought that I would have um, made the connections that I've made. A few years ago, just as a fan. Getting to talk to the players, getting to talk to the coaches, getting to talk to people behind the scenes. It really is a very special thing. This podcast is, and I just hope that the fans enjoy what we're doing, and I hope that they enjoy the camaraderie and kind of the fanhood that we and the pride that we bring to the Western athletics and Western University because it's something that I love. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort from me and you and our families. And mine might be I got to be expanding on a house here this summer. A little hint, unhint, something's on the way. But so that's going to be fun this summer. But um, no, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't exchange this experience for anything in the world. This is something that I love to do, and getting to talk to you and just how we got to connect years ago just by talking in person at games and then on Twitter or X, and then here we are. We're podcast hosts together, but it's just crazy. You just never know where life's going to take you, and I would say I'm blessed beyond what I'm worth, but it's awesome. But no, Fireman Moving Company been there day one, A1. It's been great having them. They've been great to us. Trent Bedden, he was a good sponsor. I hope people still go and support him because his commercials are probably the most entertaining that I've ever seen. And then to have Roof Girl come in, she's also doing great things, and hopefully people are using her to fix their roofs, and even if their shingles are just plain blah, hopefully they call her and she comes in fixing it up for me and gets that house looking nice because you know it's still a buyer's market, and you always want that curb appeal on your house. So call her if you do need shingles replaced or if anything's going wrong. But no, I've been having the time of my life here on this podcast, man. And I just want to say thank you for bringing me along for this ride for 3 long years.
Yeah, man. Wouldn't want to do with anyone else. It's been fun. Um, it's just fitting that this episode is our spring game recap because that's literally what kicked us off 3 years ago, um, on the spring game, doing our launch episode, and then we did the recap on April 23rd. So just perfect timing the way this landed, and recording Monday night, at least releasing this on the actual 3 year anniversary. So man, I'm looking forward to it, and who knows? Hopefully another 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, whatever years, man. No reason to give up. Let's keep going. Um, but yeah, let's talk about the spring game. Um, I got to attend, Tyler. I know you didn't get to attend, but I guess I'll just talk about I guess just the atmosphere of the spring game. Luckily it was perfect weather. It was 84 degrees. It was sunny, not hardly a cloud in the sky. It was you almost would say it was hot outside. I sat in the shaded side on the new side. I sat in the lower chair backs, right up against the back wall, had a perfect seat, was behind the offense, and really enjoyed it. Atmosphere was great. Our spring game isn't a game that attracts a lot of fans. It's not like it was a packed house by any means. Kind of a smaller crowd, but still a lot of energy in the building when there was good plays. Had good music blasting, just getting the energy and tempo up in the stadium. So a lot of good stuff to talk about, man. I really enjoyed what I saw from this team and can't wait to talk about it. And then head into summer and fall camp and see these guys in action. Not very long in August.
Oh, I know. I wish I could have been there. I had a prior engagement that I told I would attend. So, but let's break into offense first. What did you see? I know some players didn't dress up or didn't participate, but what did you see from the QBs that I guess really got you excited for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I saw a lot that I saw and that I liked. You talked about players not dressed and participating. I did. I was trying to live update as best I could while I was at the stadium. I was trying to take video clips so I could post them online for people that didn't get to attend. We did not live stream it. We learned our lesson a couple years ago, did we? We did not live stream the game. We did take some small clips though and post them. But the players that were not dressed to participate in the game, since you mentioned them, I'll list them off in case you didn't see them on our Twitter. But quarterback Brock Glenn was not dressed to play. Cornerback Kenyon Moses, running back Sincere Baines, wide receiver Katie Hutchinson, tight end Aiden Miller, and tight end Griffin Reimer. Now, most of those guys, none of them seemed like they were injured and out for the season. Most of this stuff was probably just precautionary. Katie Hutchinson kind of being the headline and name of that group. Man, he was bouncing around all over the sideline, hyping guys up, talking to the younger guys. So no worries about Katie Hutchinson. He's going to be there. And I really would have wanted to see Brock Glenn in action. I feel like talking about the quarterbacks first, he was kind of a big name target from not far away down in Tennessee. coming up to the hill, transferring from Florida State. I really wanted to see him in action and just see how good he was live. He didn't get a lot of playing time and experience there at Florida State, but a former big time recruit to go to Florida State. That's, a pretty prestigious place. And, we need someone that's going to help push Rodney Tisdale. I think we all kind of knew coming into this season that after he finished the season last year as the starter, even though the bowl game was kind of rough and Maverick came in and saved the day. We've seen that a few times in bowl games recently, so it's okay. But he was a redshirt freshman last year, got a lot of playing experience, probably a lot more comfortable, and I think that's going to lead into a really big redshirt sophomore year for Rodney. I posted it online. It's his job to lose. He's coming in, already knows a lot of the players, the system, the expectations, the standard. He's penciled in as quarterback one right now. Getting out of fall ball, heading into summer. Player run practices, and then fall camp, just right around the corner into July and August. So I really liked what I saw from Rodney. Um, he has a strong arm. That's not a surprise. We saw several big throws from him. He's laser accurate. And then he showed those legs too. A couple times on designed runs, a couple times on, just felt some pressure and got out of the pocket and ran with it. I was also really excited to see true freshman quarterback and early enrollee Cam O'Hara. He was our first commitment of the 2026 class. And it seemed like when he committed, kind of the floodgates just opened up and we just started getting all these position guys and offensive linemen committing here. And man, he looks solid. He's got a big arm. He's accurate. He throws just a very tight, pretty spiral ball, man. He was a joy to watch. And I just envision him kind of being that future of WKU football, that next great quarterback that we're going to have down the line, hoping that he sticks here and gets that opportunity. And then Caleb McMickle also got snaps as well at quarterback. And he looked good as well. I mean, throws a good ball, transferred over from Houston the year before last. Um, and all three of those guys were mobile, man. They can run. They will actually kind of shock you with how good they are. So really excited for this quarterback room. I feel real confident in Rodney Tisdale being quarterback one. But if something happens, if injury happens, or just whatever else, life happens. Maverick went down last year. TJ Finley went down the year before that. Sometimes you have to lean on quarterback too. I feel like if something does happen to Rodney, we have a good quarterback room and can hand the baton off to Brock or to Cam or Caleb. And I think we're going to be just fine as long as these guys know the offense, learn it, study it, and are preparing every single day. Like they could just be one play away from being on the field. So really enjoyed the quarterback play. And I think it's going to be a good season. I'm excited for it.
Well, then leading into another position that we've lost some players transferred out of is the running backs. We haven't we've been using them more as a receiver pretty much out of the backfield. So, what did you see from the running back core that you could talk about?
Yeah, we lost a lot of talent and a lot of experience and just a lot of productivity in the running back room this last year. I mean, when you lose Lavelle Wright to Pitt, you lose Marvis Parrish to Michigan State, you lose George Hart to third to the NFL draft and trying to go pro. I mean, that's a lot of guys that played here um, for several years and were very productive, had a lot of touchdowns, a lot of runs. Um, and I don't want to say we got better at the running back position, but I definitely think we reloaded. And that starts with AJ Allen, the former Nebraska commit, played at Miami. Um, where did he play? Tulsa also before he came here. Number 9 on the roster, man. He had several big runs. He had a couple good catches out of the backfield. He just looks like a very versatile player that reminds me, kind of a little bit of several of those guys. Look like a strong, powerful runner like Lavelle Ruz, but also could catch the ball in the backfield like Marvis did and had speed to break away and take it to the house. And then we had another running back transfer that in Caleb Hicks. He's number 3 on the roster. He's a transfer from Oklahoma State. Again, he's one of those guys that didn't get a ton of playing time over there at Oklahoma State. Looking for somewhere where you have an expanded role, a bigger workload. and I was just as impressed with him. Very agile, fast, can catch the ball in the backfield, and I think those type of versatile running backs are exactly who we need on this roster. And what's going to be a pass heavy, air raid, pro raid, call it what you want, offensive system. You need the guys that can not only run between the tackles but can step out, catch a pass, and go make a play. We're going to put them in position to catch the ball in space, make somebody miss, and get upfield and hopefully have a big game. So real excited for the running back room. I think it's going to be just as solid as it was last year, and I think we had some good running backs last year. So I'm looking forward to those guys, and that's not even mentioning the high school signee that we have, LaCameron Meadows. I'm real high on him. He's not an early enrollee, so he wasn't on campus. He didn't participate in the spring game. He'll be here in the summer. He'll be here in fall. But man, he's a heck of a running back. Comes from Moody High School in Alabama, which is a football powerhouse. And before we signed AJ and Caleb, I was like, man, this is going to be the next Marvis right here. True freshman. He's going to start day one. Might be a little tougher now, but I also think it's going to be hard to keep him off the football field as well. I think he's that good, that talented. So, man, real excited for this running back room. There's a lot of talent there.
I am looking forward to that. Now you did say KD didn't dress for the spring game, KD Hutchinson, but what did you see from the wide receiver core that kind of got your blood pumping, or something you was just watching that down there?
Yeah, so the wide receiver room, I mean, for what, 5+ years now, has been our deepest and most talented position group just across the board. Not only for our team, but in all of Conference USA. And it just seems like every year, we lose guys, whether it's to the portal or graduation, going pro, whatever it is, and we just reload with more guys. It helps that we were able to keep KD Hutchinson around. It helps that we kept Cameron Flowers around. But then we add guys like Josiah Rockwell. We add guys like Zion Taylor from Georgia Tech. We added guys like Nigel Johnson. Um, man, there is just a lot of good ball catchers on the wide receiver squad. And that, as pass happy as we're going to be, we're going to be throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. We've got so many guys that can go out there and make a play. And KD didn't dress. He was healthy. He was fine. He could have played precautionary. He's going to be that leader. But man, we've got several guys behind him that are ready to step up. The best play of the spring game was probably a double pass play, which has been a staple now for a few years. We used to run that with Dalvin Smith a lot. We'd pitch it out to the boundary. Dalvin would load up and throw a deep bomb. He had an arm on him. They did that during the spring game. Rodney threw it over to Cam Flowers, and he threw a bomb to Quincy Burrows, just wide open, caught the defense off guard. One play touchdown. Again, just shows that big play versatility, playmakers all over the field. Um, this is going to be the best wide receiver room in the conference, and I don't think it's going to be close. And I think they're going to be very, very, very productive. So definitely looking forward to this wide receiver room and seeing how they perform on Saturdays when the lights come on.
That's going to be awesome to see. I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to it. Now moving on to tight ends, we used to be tight end U. It's been a few seasons since we've had a big name tight end come through. Do you think that changes this season? What did you see from that room?
Yeah, we keep losing tight ends to the portal. Lost River Helms just a couple years ago, and but it's an opportunity to reload. It's an opportunity to get better. Now we didn't have a couple guys didn't dress and play. One of those, Aiden Miller, who's a returning player and experienced for us, and a big boy, strong boy, and then Griffin Reimer, who's a transfer that came in. I think both of those guys had boots on, if I'm not mistaken. At least one of them did. So hopefully just precautionary, just trying to help them get fully healthy before summer gets here. But man, the tight end that stood out the most to me was Toledo transfer CC Ezram. I think he's 6'7", listed on the roster, but man, he was big, catching everything over the middle. They threw him a tunnel screen play. Um, I don't know who the starting tight end is going to be, but I think he is going to be a hard one to keep off the field as long as he can pass protect and help, in more ways than just catching the ball. I think he's going to be an effective tight end and one that's going to be a big, big red zone target for us.
Well, I am looking forward to that because it would be nice to have a very active uh, tight end again. Now moving on to the big uglies up front, the offensive linemen. The most underrated or underappreciated position group in football. But what did you see out of them guys?
Man, the offensive line room is a lot of big boys. And I think we knew that as I was keeping up with the roster tracker, when the transfer portal opened and we lost a lot of guys, that some lost eligibility, some transferred, a couple going pro, whatever it is. But man, once we started re-signing guys, we were re-signing guys that were 6'5", 340, 6'6", 330, 6'7", 335. Like we signed a ton of big boys, and the offensive line room got bigger. I'll say that for sure. There were times last season when the offensive line, the protection, the run game was just a little bit shaky. And I won't say the O-line play on Saturday was perfect. There definitely were times when the quarterback had to feel that pressure and had to scramble, roll out, and go make a play. But I also talked about how mobile all of our quarterbacks were. I think they all have that ability that if pressure does break down, they can get out of the pocket and they can go make a play with their legs or just find somebody scrambling and getting open. But man, the offensive line, a lot of big boys. These starters from left to right, and I'm calling them the starters now because it's real early to be calling them starters. But the guys that were lined up in front of Rodney Tisdale consistently were left tackle Tyree Jr., left guard Rhett Larson, at center was Karsten Upchurch. Right guard was Max Thurston. And right tackle was Alex Lopez. So basically a whole new offensive line. Karsten Upchurch got some playing time last year after some injuries. Max Thurston's been here. The rest of those guys are all transfers. And the good thing about this offensive line room is we got 5 more big boys behind them, ready to go, ready to play. So I have a lot of faith in Joe Bernardi and his recruiting and his coaching and developing that he's done, that we're going to find the 5 best guys that are going to help keep Rodney clean, help get those passing lanes open, those running lanes open. I think our wide receiver room is good, but I think the offensive line room is probably the deepest position that we have on the entire roster. There's probably 10 guys that can be starters for us, and that's a really good problem to have, and they're all big bodies.
Yeah, that is definitely a very good problem to have. Now, moving over, talking about the defense, what did you see from the defensive linebacker position? Maybe that you were kind of, did you have any questions answered after Saturday's showcase?
We turned over a lot of bodies on the defensive side, especially on the defensive line and the linebackers. Both of those position groups are really young. I think linebackers, I think there's only 3 upperclassmen. Defensive line, we had a couple guys that have returned that'll give us some experience and some depth. But what I really liked and what I really saw was one, a bunch of big boys that can move bodies. I mentioned earlier that the offensive line didn't play great, but that also means that the defensive line was playing pretty good and getting pressure, getting in the backfield. It's kind of hard to judge, off of a spring game effort because they were running, holding up on quarterbacks. They weren't hitting anybody hard. They weren't trying to throw someone down. But I was really impressed with the overall size and speed, especially some of the linebackers. Again, that's a new young core. Same with the defensive ends, all new guys, really young guys. Um, there's a lot of new names and new faces on the defensive line, on the second level at the linebackers and those defensive ends. But I think we have a lot of depth there. And I think one of our weaknesses over the last few seasons has been getting consistent quarterback pressure. I think that's a reason why we saw our secondary kind of fall off last year and struggle and move back to, like, I think we were 87th ranked passing defense last year after being the number 9 ranked passing defense in 2024. We didn't get a consistent pass rush. Those defenders, those quarterbacks and DBs have to defend longer, and that's when players get open. They find a way to shake free or a play breaks down, and you don't get off the field on 3rd and long. A good and consistent pass rush will speed that opposing quarterback up and make their life harder. cause more errors, more sacks, turnovers, etc. And I really liked what I saw from the D line and the linebackers. I think we're going to be much improved on both of those positions.
I say I'm excited to see if we have any good edge rushers. Kind of like a D'Angelo Malone type player, someone to get back in there and cause havoc. But moving on, what did you see from the secondary? Because I know we've lost some players in the portal this last season. Did you feel like Helton and crew have been able to recoup that and probably built upon that for the secondary position?
Yeah, the secondary's kind of similar to the defensive line. We have a couple guys that returned. Um, Dave Herrard returns, Jalen Lewis returns, Braxton Myers returns. Those are kind of three guys that saw some playing time last year. Almost everybody else is new. Transfers have come in. Um, uh, Christian White from Florida State stands out. Pedro Sufrant, who announced his commitment on Topper Talk last summer on July 4th, got some playing time. Lataj Wright, Justin Brown, the only safety on the roster. If you look at the spring roster right now, there's only one safety listed. In this 3-3-5 defense that we play, we're going to have a lot of DBs back, and you have to have a lot of bodies and a lot of depth as you rotate guys out, whether it's a long drive or whether injuries happen. But I feel really good about the secondary. And I think the combination of an improved defensive line and quarterback pressure, and then an overall improvement in not only the size, but the speed and the depth of our secondary is going to help them take a step forward back to being closer to, a top 25 pass defense in the nation. I don't know if they will be top 25, but they need to be better than 87th. There was a pivotal moment in that Jacksonville State regular season finale last year. It was like 3rd and 18, 3rd and 23, 3rd and a mile. And if we get off the field, they don't kick that game winning field goal with time expiring. And we just couldn't get off the field. We didn't rush the passer, and the DBs gave up a big catch down the sideline. I think both of those issues have been addressed, and I think we're going to be much more solid this year in the secondary, especially.
That's great to hear. Now moving on to something, a position that we typically hang our hat on as being one of the best, and that is special teams. So, tell me what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like from the special teams position.
Yeah, special teams is another one of those ones that's kind of hard to judge by a spring game environment because we didn't see any punts, or at least not while I was there. I had to leave a little early, but there's only one punter on the roster. That's Daniel Wall, and he has big shoes to fill in filling a consensus All American in Cole Maynard's shoes. That's going to be tough to do. Can he be, the national leader in average punting yards? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I feel good. I like, the Aussie pipeline has worked well for us, so I think he's going to be fine. Place kicking duties, we did lose John Kennan, exhausted his eligibility. Then the other kicker transferred to West Virginia that we thought might be our leader this year, but we've got a couple guys in Michael Buck. I think he's kind of going to be that main guy that's going to get the first chance to be that point after touchdown kicker and field goal kicker. But I think our special teams is going to be fine. That's been one of our strongest units consistently over the last 5 years with Andy LaRussa as our special teams coach. He's the associate head coach. And I just don't have any reason to feel that we're going to have a huge fall off there. We also brought in Carl Campbell, who's a transfer from Northern Ireland. Um, just another, Northern Ireland kid. We had one last year, Cassidy, big leg on him. Played some rugby rules football. Going to be playing American football for the first time, but we just reload on special teams. I feel really good about this unit, even though we didn't get to see them in their full capacity. With big punts and long field goals, etc. It's more just kind of scripted gameplay and a controlled environment, not a big crowd. Not a hostile environment on the road, but I have no reason to believe that Andy LaRussa and Tyson Helton aren't going to keep a strong special teams unit because, like you said, we do hang our hat on being one of the best units, not only in Conference USA, but in the entire nation, not just G5, the entire nation. We're ranked one of the best special teams units in the country. So I feel really good about the special teams.
Well, I mean, that wraps up our spring position breakdown. Unless you want to talk about your final thought or your overall thoughts of the spring game.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of posted a cliff notes of the spring game on our Twitter, after the game, and I posted a thread of video clips. If you haven't seen that, it's down our timeline on Saturday afternoon as we were driving to Louisville. I tried to post each of those clips and who the players were, the quarterback and the receiver, etc., or if it was a well defended pass play. Try to recognize and name everyone that I could in those videos. So if you haven't seen that, check our Twitter uh, timeline out on there, and then also my recaps on there. Basically, just talked about every single position group that we just went over. Um, and really just wanted to brag and just recognize Coach Helton's ability to reload talent in the transfer portal, and not only players but coaches. Because again, we lost an offensive coordinator. Rick Bowie went to UTSA. We lost a defensive coordinator. Devon Brown went to Cal. Promoted Davis Merritt. He's a full time defensive coordinator now. Brought over Bodie Reeder from MTSU, which feels odd, feels a little slimy, but we just got to wash that blue off of him, show him how a real program runs, a real system runs, show him that he can come over here and score a lot of points and win a lot of ball games. And man, I just think we have a really good roster. Um, just on paper right now and just what we know about ourselves, I think we have a really good team that can compete for a Conference USA championship and hopefully get that monkey off Coach Helton's back. Obviously, over the summer, as we dive into the position groups more, we'll have a better idea of what each position looks like, who we think the starters are going to be, what the depth looks like, and those hot takes. What the bold prediction for each of those. But we'll also kind of dive in once that Phil Steele magazine comes out end of June, early July. We'll get to dig into also the other Conference USA teams because we're not the only one that had some roster turnover. Kennesaw State lost their quarterback one. Jacksonville State had turnover. Liberty had turnover, only won 4 games last year. So there's going to be a lot of new names and faces and people you need to get familiar with. But, hopefully, whether you follow us on Twitter or where you listen to us audio here or YouTube, the video episode, hopefully you feel a little bit better, a little bit more positive about just how good this football team can be and just how special it is that Tyson Helton is able to reload with talent every single year and have us in contention to win that Conference USA championship. And I think this year is going to be no different. I think we have the team, having a quarterback coming back, in Rodney Tisdale for it feels like the first time in 10 years since we had a returning quarterback, with game experience and snaps and starts under their belt. It feels like it's been a long time. Um, I think 2026 can be just a really, really good season. Obviously, the schedule does us no favors, opening up with 3 games in a row on the road before we have our first home game. Um, Indiana and Georgia will both be tough. On the road at Nevada will be tough. But once we get into Conference USA play, that's what matters. We need to win those ball games. If can we go 8-0? We can. I don't know if we will. 7-1 would be nice. 6-2, that's about as bad as Tyson Helton gets. And that's without knowing who we play, when we play, where we play. Conference USA schedule is going to get re-released after that Luzerne Tech news goes official. But man, I'm really excited for the season start. I'm really excited for summer ball and then getting to go to some fall camps and watch them scrimmage on Saturdays. It's closer than you think. We're not far away from that August kickoff, man. So really looking forward to it. Enjoyed getting to recap it. Was an awesome, awesome spring showcase. Tyler, I guess go ahead and hit us with your final thoughts and take us on out of here.
Yeah, I really wish I could have made it. But just seeing the videos that you posted and then the things that you were typing out about it, it was pretty awesome. I was keeping up with it as I was at my event. But um, yeah, I mean, Hilton, hats off to him every year. We get players that transfer out or graduate, and then it seems like he's always just refilling the cupboard with talented players. And I don't know if we've had a very mobile quarterback like we've had since who's the quarterback before Dowdy?
K1 Jakes.
K1 Jakes. I mean, I feel like we've had a lot of pocket passers, guys that could scramble if they absolutely had to, but nothing quite as mobile. Well, I guess you had that. The guy
Piggy T.
Piggy T that couldn't pass the ball over 20 yards, but we have a quarterback that can pass the ball. We have a dude that can run if necessary or if he just wants to. So I'm very looking forward to this year. I feel like the running back room is going to have an upgrade, and I'm excited to see what they do. Um, hopefully we have a player that maybe posts some big yardage. Just kind of keep the opposing defense kind of honest instead of them just dropping, you know, everybody and then their mama. But um, nah, I am looking forward to this, and whenever the summertime comes out and the field steel comes out, I'm really excited, looking forward at stats and what the guys are bringing in, and I'm here for it. But with that, I will say people, thank y'all for the last 3 years. I'm looking forward to the next 20 years because I'm still going to be a fan of Western for as long as I live, and I'm always down to talk about the Western athletics. So with that, I will say, Moff, who has it better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Y'all go Tops.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See y'all.